Next, we're going to prepare our simple cooking with heart, easy collard greens. We're going to get started by mincing our garlic and then cutting our onion. Smash our garlic to peel it, cut off the end, and then rock our knife back and forth over the garlic until we get it into nice, small pieces. Making sure to scrape it every now and then because garlic is sticky. Scrape it to the center and go back over it. Just about there. Next, I'm going to set that to the side. Now I'm going to cut my onion. In the original recipe, it calls for us to use half of a small onion. I'm not using a full bunch of greens, and I have a very large onion, so I'm only going to be using about a quarter of this onion. So I'm going to cut it right through the middle from the root to the stem. And I'm going to be using the technique that I used in our week 1, where I'm going to be dicing our onion. So I'm going to cut about an inch from the stem up here at the top. You can tell the difference between the stem and the root because the root usually has all these little root bits coming out of it. And then I'm going to peel it. Next, I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to make cuts horizontally towards the root, making sure not to hit the root. I'm not going to go all the way back actually because I am only going to use a quarter of this onion, and I want to be able to use this onion for later projects. And maybe I don't want to dice the onion next. Making sure to keep my fingers out of the knife. I'm keeping these lines pretty close together so that way I don't end up with really big chunks of onion. Next, starting right at where my lines end, I'm going to put cuts in this direction. These are already chopped pretty small. And now I'm going to go back towards the root. Perfect. I'm going to set this aside and put this in a small container for a moment. I'm just going to smell like onions today. That's okay. Alright. Now that I got all of my onions into my container, I'm going to set that aside along with my garlic. Throw away the skins of my onions and my onion and my garlic. Set this aside as well. And now I'm going to cut my greens. I found that it's easiest to cut if I use my knife to run it along this long vein here, rather than doing it one at a time or ripping it off. I find that it's easiest to just use my knife. So I'm going to do maybe 2 or 3, make sure that they're lined up really well. When you're cooking collard greens, you want to make sure that you have rinsed them very well. In addition to your initial rinse when you bring them home from the grocery store, you want to make sure that they're rinsed and washed again right before you cook them. Collard greens tend to have a lot of grit and sand in them, so you want to make sure that you don't have any of that in your final product. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here at the top, and I'm going to move down, cutting out that middle stem. And I'm going to go right on the other side. Ooh, I missed some. Cutting out the middle stem. Set that to the side. Use that for compost or stock or what have you. And then you're going to roll up the leaves. All of them together. And then you're going to slice them very thinly all the way back. Alright, oh, that one's a little bit large. And put those in a container. Alright, and I'm going to do that with the rest of my greens here. And put them in a separate bowl. Then we're going to move over to the stove to get our onions and our garlic sauteed and get started on cooking our greens. So we've been heating our oil inside of our pot. It's starting to get nice and shimmery. So now we're going to add our onions. We're going to cook those down for 3 to 5 minutes. Now that our onions have been sauteing for a couple of minutes, I'm going to add our garlic. I'm going to heat that for another 30 seconds or so. Just until it starts getting nice and fragrant. Next, I'm going to add my greens, kind of been chopped and rinsed very thoroughly. I'm going to add my pepper, my chili pepper, sugar, normally we would add turkey bacon, but we do not currently have access to turkey bacon, so we're going to be using smoked paprika for that smoky flavor instead. Water and apple cider vinegar. Now I'm going to cover this and keep it simmering for about 20 minutes. And you want to make sure to keep your eye on your greens. There's not a lot of liquid in these greens, and what tends to happen is if you're not watching it very carefully, all of the water can evaporate and can burn your greens. So you want to make sure that you're keeping your eye on it, adding water as you need to. So we're going to have this simmering for the next 20 minutes. I'm going to turn down my heat just a little bit, make sure it's fully combined. And in 20 minutes, we'll be back.